Well, folks, I'd like to introduce you to Charlotte. She's the new addition to our home, and she's our new tractor, which is an International T9. She was sitting there rusting away on a piece of property that belonged to a friend of mine. She hadn't run in about 10 years and wanted to get her moved off, so I volunteered to take my tractor, which is called Charlotte. Be a good name for her. Had her cost me a few bucks to have her moved because it wasn't running, so I had to do a lot of work to get the engine running. After I did get it running, I found out it needed a new steering clutch, which was a major problem. Thing weighs over 100 pounds and with 20 disc plates in it. Took us about 2 weeks. A friend of mine, I decided to change it herself. And had to almost assemble a whole tractor to get at it, but we finally got it going, and I put a lot of effort into this tractor. She's rusty, she's old, she needs a paint job, but she runs good. She's got a strong engine in it, and I've always wanted a tractor from the time I was small. I had toy tractors. I never thought I could really own one because they're so darn expensive. You know, you could pay $20,000-$30,000 easy for a tractor or more. This is about the size of a D4, between a D4 and a D5 on a Caterpillar. So it's 20,000 pound machine with a bulldozer blade on the front and a huge winch that will tow itself out on the rear. This is the rear end shot of Charlotte. You can see the winch on the back. The cable that was on there was almost an inch in diameter. I don't see how they even wound it on there. It was so big. The treads are really extra large in this. The tracks and the grousers, the cleats on top are probably almost 2 inches high each, so they look like they're fairly new. And the gas tank, of course, is right above the winch. And she gets about a gallon per hour of operation, so that's pretty good. That's the front view of Charlotte, and that blade is 12 feet wide. It's probably not quite 2 feet tall. And what you see is this is in my backyard, and to the left is a wood pile, and to the right is the back porch. So the machine just barely fits in there, and road was put in there originally when they built the house to get materials in there. So it never was intended to be much of a road, but when they put it in, the water all drains towards the house, so I decided to change the drainage so it would drain away from the house. So this has been an ongoing project. You can see things have been opened up quite a bit. I took down the wood shed, moved it over to the right because all that now was eaten away, and I'm trying to dig down there, and like I say, the grade was probably a foot drifting to the right towards the house, and I'm trying to make it even, and I'm hitting that rock, and it's turned out to be quite a chore. And this is the same view a little farther away. We're kind of up on top of the hill where you can look down into the valley. And just more of the same. Closer view of the blade. And it's hard to see that rock formation, but the blade is, if you look on the left-hand side, it's sitting up on that rock formation. And it is so hard I had to jackhammer it away, which you'll see some pictures early on. I had to go in with an electric jackhammer and actually break it up, so because it was so hard it'd spin that dozer around. Almost wiped out the house a couple times when it would dig in. And a little farther view, and you can see it's a lot wider now, and the bank is a lot taller. I've moved the rock and material. I've moved it over to the right where there was soft dirt, which wasn't great during when it rained because it turned to mud, and you'd step into the mud. So now I've got a combination of rock, and I run over it with 20,000 pounds of machinery, and it grinds it up into a nice little road base. And this is actually on the reverse side, house being to the left instead of to the right. And I'm just showing that the road is level now. And I've got it tilted over to the right, so the water runoff is to the right. I was trying to make a ditch, and I found out it was just too hard going with that rock. So the best I could do was just change the grade so everything ran to the right. Just another rear end shot of the dozer, and you can see the bank there to the left is almost as high as the dozer. It's almost solid rock. It's like it's its own retaining wall now because it's just solid rock. And this is down below when I first brought the dozer in. Had it dumped right there, and we started working on it there, getting it running. Once we got it running, then we started finding a lot of other mechanical things, bolts broken. In fact, I broke 6 1-inch diameter number 8 hardened bolts off, and boy, it took us a couple weeks to drill those out. They were the support system for the blade assembly, and that was almost gave up at that point, but I persevered and have a friend of mine helped drill them out, Gus. And this is the rear end. We're still parked down below there, and just another view. And it's just another side view. If you look on the rear sprocket to the right, there's a big piece of steel that goes up to the front. That's the support arm for the dozer blade. That's where it anchors, and that rotates there. And then off to the right, there's kind of an arm that trails down with a vertical arm. That's the part that lifts the dozer, and it's a pure hydraulic. Those cylinders about 5 inches in diameter, and they're driven with a hydraulic pump. And I did put, after I got everything going, I put a modification on them, which you'll see later on in this presentation. And this is another view of the rear. The one thing that's notable is right below the winch there, there's a takeoff there where you can pull things. And unfortunately, that only has about a 10 to 12 inch clearance, so I had to get my friend to go under there. My big belly couldn't fit under there. Okay, now we're getting into the hydraulics. This is before the modification, and all those hoses are coming off of a controller. There's looks like a gear shift up on top, a little small one. That's the controller, and that controls the blades either neutral or it's raised or lower. And there's flexible lines come out of there, and there's one on either side of the cylinder. One makes it extend, and the other makes it retract. And they're very powerful devices. They're one for each side. This top view of the assembly, and that controller I was talking about, where it's right in the center towards the top of the picture. The lever arms kind of hard to see with that little skinny shaft, and it's just a spool inside, and when you move it, it allows the fluid to flow in one port or another, which either is idle or lifting or pushing down on the blade. And this will give you another view showing the lifting arms towards the front. And there's like a vertical arm there that's 24 inches long, about 1.25 inches in diameter, solid steel, and they actually lift the blade. The blade's well over 2 tons. Tried to lift it with my 2.5-ton floor jack. It wouldn't budge it. I had to use a 20-ton bottle jack to get the thing off the ground. Okay, this is the end view of the controller. And the little pedal to the kind of the left there, that's the steering brake. And you mash on that and you pull back on the lever and you can do a real quick turn with it, and it will stop you also. And to the right is union to break the hydraulic line when you're working on it. I did lots of work on it. I had to replace all the hoses. They were all old and leaky and worn out. And this is part of the mod that I did. Towards the center of the picture, you see the 2 hoses going out. I extended those. It's actually, they use regular 3/4 inch black pipe. I extended those out probably 6 inches each, and I installed a ball valve in each one. And unless you've driven a tractor, you probably don't understand, but the only function I have on this old tractor is the blade could go up and down. You can't do a tilt on the blade to make one side or the other dig in. So I put my own mod where I could lock off the cylinder, and I could raise it or lower it, lock it off, and then I could trick the blade into dipping to the left or to the right. So it took a while to get that all plumbed in. And this is another of the control valve, and I think it's just basically she's just showing the valve, not tricky there. Another picture of the control valve, solid cast iron. They made them good in those days. Everything was cast iron. The radiators cast iron. The hydraulic reservoir is a big cast iron thing in front. Everything is just everything today is made of plastic, it seems. This thing is, that's why it weighs so much. It's real heavy steel. And this is a kind of a better picture showing that arm at the bottom there. The thing on the very rear, that was the original I did of a tilt. You could move it in one of those 2 holes, and that would put a slight angle, but it would only affect it maybe 5 or 6 inches, which wasn't enough for what I was trying to do, clearing ditches and making ditches. And you can see the hydraulic cylinder up above. You can see the ram coming out to the right, and then on that big cantilevered arm there, that's lifting up the dozer blade assembly. And this is another top view looking down on the dozer, and you can see the blades, the radiator system, and of course the engine. It's only a 4-banger, but the buckets are probably 5 inches in diameter, 8, so there's quite a few cubic inches there. And this is showing the mod on the other side. You can see, I guess you can see the little ball valves are down as they turn and go up right below the unions. Right below the union is the ball valve. And let's see. Maybe that's before. Can't see it that well. Maybe that, okay, that's before that's the old before I modified it. Sorry about that. So that's what it looked like before I did the mod on it. Okay, now there actually you can see the ball valves in the middle, and they have little red handles on them. And when they're in line, they're open, and when they're perpendicular to the pipe, they're closed. locking off the cylinder. Once you lock off the cylinder, it doesn't matter what the controller's doing. That is in a fixed position. This is my own invention. And another just a picture showing the hydraulic assembly and the front part of the dozer. Okay, this is the modification. If you follow the rubber lines there coming down, there's a ball valve in each one. Like I say, one for the top of the cylinder, one for the bottom of the cylinder, and once you position it, you lock those off, and you got to be a little careful, because a couple times I tried to lift the other side there and start bending stuff, so you got to be really careful. Okay, now we see those infamous ball valves there with little red handles. Those are turned on. They're in the inline position, so oil can flow either direction. So that would be the normal operating thing when you want to lift the blade up and down. I leave everything normal. Then when I get ready to drop the blade, the way I typically do it is, if I'm digging a ditch, I'll take, say I'm on the right side of the blade, I'll lock that in a down position. On the left hand side, I'll raise that maybe a couple inches, so the dirt will go under the blade at that point, and it'll build up at that side, and the right side of the blade will dig. So I know that sounds confusing, but it's nowadays they just have a little they call it a 6-way valve, and they can just do that with a flip of the wrist. And just another view of the hydraulic system there. And yeah, you got to remember, this tractor's 1967. It's been around for a long time, but somebody did take good care of it, and it's going to be under my care for a long time. And the next job is going to be to get a paint job, which means I got to take off all that the original paint was red on International. I got to take off that crummy old yellow paint, and so it's going to take me a couple months to get her painted, but she'll look good when I get finished. Okay, why is that blade out there so long? It's out there so long because we actually removed it, and because it weighs a couple tons, we actually unloosened it and backed away from it. We got it propped up there in the middle, then we just backed away from it. You don't push or lift or drag those things around. So that was when we were going to rebuild the mounts and stuff for the blade. That turned out to be quite a chore. And this is another picture showing the blade has been removed. Now we're starting to take off all the support, the hydraulic cylinders, just the side plates are probably 200 or 300 pounds a piece, which I took off with an engine puller. Everything on this thing is huge and heavy. Okay, this is the rear axle. This is where the drive comes from. This is the thing that powers it. The front is just an idler, and there's a big sprocket there that drives the track. And that thing in the middle there, that's a hub, and that's where the support for the blade fits on, and the bolts holding that on were sheared, so we had to disassemble everything to get at those bolts and replace them. Quite a job. This nifty looking thing, if you look in the very top, that's the clutch pack, and that assembly weighs over 100 pounds. There's 20 discs, like clutch discs in your car. There's 20 of these, and that particular thing in the very front there, that's an adjustment thing where you can adjust it. Actually, I sent that out to a tractor place because there's a spring in there that can kill you if you don't do it right. I decided I need a couple more years to go. This little turkey is part of the adjustment. You adjust those little fingers at the very bottom in those holes, and luckily I had a manual on it which told me how to make those adjustments, because I didn't have a clue when I started. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but there's actually electric jackhammer. I've got two of them. That's my smaller one. That's a 70-pounder. The other one has got 100 and something pounds, and I found I'm just getting too damn old to lift it. It's a backbreaker, so this one's hard enough. But what I was doing was breaking up that rock, because that shelf there is almost solid rock, and like I say, the dozer blade would catch that thing and then just spin it around, or just it would stop the dozer and then sit there and bounce on the ground, bounce up and down. And here's another picture, and you can see I'm starting to working at it both from the side and on the ground itself. And these sheets are probably 2 inches wide, and they probably maybe go 1,000 feet into the ground. They're huge. They're what they call slate, and they break up pretty easy, but they're just, everything is huge, and the veins are probably I don't know, 20-30 feet wide. Like I say, 1,000 feet or better deep. It's just a close-up shot of the work I did with the jackhammer. You can see where I broke up the slate, and actually I hand shoveled this stuff over to the soft dirt, and I made a place where I could run over it with the track and turn it back into gravel. So I was making my own road base. Worked out pretty slick. And it's kind of a side view of the jackhammer. I was going in from the side and actually trying to open this stuff up so I could penetrate it with the blade, because like I say, the blade would just skip over it. And once I got the stuff opened up, the blade would catch it and it'd just literally tear it right out of the ground. Okay. Most of this rock, some of it came out of where I was working, but most of this came out of my mine down below. I call the vertical mine, and out of a 20-foot hole, they took 1,000 ounces of gold out of there. And the stuff in the very center is called schist or ampelite, and that white stuff running through it is quartz. So the contact zone between the quartz and the ampelite is where the gold, the big gold, is, and then inside the schist, the dark gray material, is disseminated gold, which is buried inside, and that assayed out at 2.3 ounces per ton. So gold at 1,600 ounces per ton, worth a few bucks there. So what I'm planning on doing is just looking it over good, busting smaller pieces, and then crush it up with a jaw crusher. A little bigger, I put a quarter on there so you get an idea of the size. That rock is probably 16 inches wide, probably about 80 pounds. There's cracks in it, and that's probably when they dynamited it. They put the cracks in it, pulled these out with a backhoe. But I've never been the way, there was a bunch of shale that had caved in on top of it, so I had that removed with a backhoe, and then this is the money rock right here. This is where the high amount of gold is. And this is just another view of it, just a little closer up. And there's other pieces of material around it. A lot of quartz and the same ampelite material. It's a closer view, and you can see those little specks running through it. When you put water on it, those little specks are actually gold. Those little tiny, look like little flakes in there. I should have wet this so you could see them, but when you wet them and you turn it towards the sun, you can see these little things of gold. They're probably less than a 64th of an inch. They're very tiny, but you know, when they add up to an ounce of gold, that's $1,600. So that little rock right there, that could be half an ounce of gold just in that one rock. Now, this interesting little rock here, it's a piece of quartz, and it looks like it's got rust stains on it, so there's some stuff going on with that, and I didn't find much in the quartz. I think the rusty rock maybe assayed at an ounce per ton, but the pure white quartz almost came out zero. So this is on the contact zone. Usually that face was hooked over to a piece of schist, and so when it got split off, there's gold that actually falls out between the two. So there's a lot of small gold probably still in the hole. Another picture of the money rock, and I plan on, especially where those cracks are, I got to put a piece of canvas under it when I break it up, because there will be gold that come out of there. So that's my next venture to do. I just got my jaw crusher today, so break it into smaller pieces. But first I want to take pictures of it, use my close-up lens of my camera, and get some good close-up shots of it. Now this is quartz, dirty quartz. The pure quartz usually is void of anything. Those little rusty stains, that's the money rock. Wherever you see those ugly little black stains or red stains, there's usually gold running through those lines. Those are contact zones. So the real white stuff I usually throw away. I look for the what they call dirty quartz, and usually there's gold hiding in there. I have no idea. This is probably Godzilla's eggs there. I have no idea what that is. It just kind of appeared out of nowhere there. I didn't even catch it till I took the pictures, and I thought, what in the world is that? And I still don't know, so we'll just put it in the thing as unknown.